learned what was going on behind the scenes about this, I was like, wow, this is actually a lot more complicated. And to be completely frank, I was more motivated to really want to help promote the movie because I'm the film lover that loves the stories of what it takes to make the film. I am a fan of the movie, but I'm more interested in the journey of making the movie and then the events that takes place after the fact. Your stories are one of the most intriguing ones. I'm sure some people out there who may not be, who are aware of it, but those that are not. So to put it in a nutshell, you've made the movie and then you have got into some trouble with regards to how you had an aggregator who would try to hook you up and getting the film released through some streaming platform. Didn't work out that well. You got screwed over, and then there's a whole backstory about how everything just unfolded the way that it did. And then, of course,
we could talk hours just about that.
right. So, and I've heard quite a few interviews of you sharing that, and some interviews were a little more insightful than others. But I was completely unaware of your story, and just by chance, what's funny is that when I had heard your story, I was aware of the issues regarding distributors, of how, it's a very shady business. And I would say, well, I guess it depends who you ask, but it could be a very dark place of a filmmaker that's not prepared on how to handle this. So if it wasn't for the channel Film Courage, where they've interviewed several different filmmakers, producers, writers, directors, and so on, that have provided some insight about what to look out for when it comes to distributors, because independent filmmakers typically tend to be more about the film and then not concerned about the business aspect of it. And then they are bringing more awareness to that to educate people in that process. You've obviously been through the trenches. And then, when I heard your story, I was like, oh yeah. So I've heard you talking about some potential distributors you're looking into, and then you look into the middlemen as far as the aggregators are concerned. And then everything just unfolded the way it is, as I kind of touched upon previously. So I don't know if how worn out, or if you are still cool with bringing this up again. But if you don't mind sharing with me, what's the current status is right now for you with regards to the situation on, everything post distributors, which is the company that you work on. So if you don't mind just clarifying real quickly about how that's going on for you right now. So people are aware.
Right now, the movie is only available. The only way to watch it right now is on Amazon. That's it. That is the only way to watch it. We also did a Blu-ray limited release through Screen Team Releasing. They're, as far as I can tell right now, they're out on Amazon and they're out on their website. So I've got like a box right here underneath my feet. I probably got to send them right now so they have some more.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about that. I looked up online to purchase the Blu-ray because I was really wanted to support you, because I rented the movie and we kind of discussed how that works out for you as far as you receiving compensation for that. So you have the box of Blu-rays now. So do you have to send it out on a whenever demand is out there?
I just got to send it back to Screen Team Releasing so he can have them and he can send them out.
Oh, okay.
He takes care of that part for me, and he takes them to like all the conventions and stuff and sells them there for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because if I could reach out, I'll reach out to them then to see if I can get a copy.
I'm going to reach out after we get done talking as well and tell them, hey man, if you're completely out, let me send you this box, and then let's figure out where we go from there.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That
we did a limited release for them, like 1,000 Blu-rays, and those sold out pretty quick, it sounds like. So I've got to get him this other box here so he can have some to sell on the website.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would definitely reach out to him to do that. Well, so right now, so Amazon's the only place you could buy it, or you can actually view it there.
Right, you can rent it there. It's like 99 cents to rent.
Right.
You can own the digital version for $4.99.
Right. Well, okay, so let's talk about the movie then, because you had reached out and asked for me to watch it, and I'm going to be doing the review for it. So by the time this episode releases, the review for that will be coming out beforehand. Okay. So I was the one thing that surprised me the most about the movie, the first thing I noticed was how long the film was, because usually films of this nature are like 90 minutes. So when I saw it was just under 2 hours, I was like, that's really interesting that it's going to be for that long. Right. But I figure it's one of those situations where you had practically pretty much like full control of the whole situation, where you are able to leave in what you want and take out what you want as you please, to see the full picture as best as you guys were able to get the job done, which I have to give you a lot of credit for, because I'm sure you may have heard this before, but for some people who don't realize how long it took you to make the movie, because I think I recall you mentioned before that it's what you usually did about maybe 1 or 2 day of shooting per week, or for a span of like
And
6
sometimes
months.
less than that, just because of everyone's schedule.
Right.
It got really difficult to get those guys together to shoot those scenes around the fire.
Yeah.
And the bachelor party scene was such a bitch to get that, to
Yeah.
find the strippers. The girl that has the pink hair in the movie, she was like a last second replacement because the other girl didn't show.
Really?
She was supposed to be coming in from like San Antonio, and we're shooting like 20-30 minutes north of Dallas in this place called Melissa, Texas. So I was like freaking out. And the guy that's at the beginning of the movie, the dorky hunter guy, he's part of this vegan group. And he's like, hey, I know this vegan stripper. You take a look at her and see if you want to talk to her about doing the movie. And I didn't know, she didn't have any acting experience or anything. And I just called her and said, hey, where are you? Let's go meet. Let's get your wardrobe stuff. And if you want to do the movie, this is how much it pays. And she was excited to do it. And she came out and killed it for us.
Well, she did a good job because, like I said, this is the thing too, because when I was watching the movie, I enjoyed it, but then after I had learned what had happened about making the film, and then after the fact, I watched it again with a whole new set of eyes, understanding the whole process, pre, during, and then post. It's honestly, it's a work of art, in my opinion, that you were able to pull it off the way that you did, considering that you were pretty much a one-man show. You were basically pulling off a Robert Rodriguez scenario where you were just pretty much doing everything from top to bottom.
Right, except I had to be in it too, which was
right. So and that's another thing too. I was rather impressed that, considering how well the film had turned out, that it's amazing that no one, I mean, there's really not a lot of talk about this movie, because this is a movie that, in my mind, that I would think that would garner a huge amount of attention, considering, the market out there, and considering this community that, that I love as well too. But there's really not enough people talking about, which is really, I wouldn't say it's upsetting, but it's really sad to hear that, because, the market is huge for this sort of stuff. But at the same time, there are a lot of passionate fans out there who love this form, the style of film. So considering that you hit all the check marks as far as the story that you're telling it the way that you want to tell it, under the restrictions, of course, that you have, but you still got to get the film done. I am blown away that this was never the cult classic that it should have reached at this point. And it's been what, 3 years now since the film has been released at this point.
We started out doing really, really good. Once we got over the hurdle of just saying, screw the whole, at first we couldn't get on Amazon. We were supposed to, when we were working, what people probably don't understand is this aggregator people, what they really are is they're just an accountant, and they handle the quality control for the digital platforms.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go through a distribution company. The confusing thing is the aggregator called themselves distributor, but they're not a distribution company. They just handle the accounting and quality control. So I was like, I don't want to go to a distribution company and have to give away anywhere from 20 to 50% of my rights to the movie, and then give another 50 to 55% away of my rights to Amazon. Because then I'm like, I don't have any rights now. Like, I'm going to give everything away. I thought with this movie being the way it was, with the genre and the popularity at the time when I was making it, I thought I could just market it myself and take it straight to the digital platforms, because I didn't need another middleman. I was like, why am I going to give these other people 50% just to send it and put it out on Amazon and iTunes when I could do that myself? Right. So we learned the hard way. I guess that's when the movie business kind of started changing. Right when I got the movie done, but I didn't know that it was changing at that time, where it was like kind of getting taboo to show women nude and do these sex scenes and do this raunchy comedy stuff. I didn't know they were getting away from that. And then you start hearing Todd Phillips talk about it and why he had to make the Joker, and he had to get away from the Hangover movies and stuff like that, because people were just like, they weren't digging that anymore. And I had no idea that was going to happen. So when ours came out, they were like, oh, we can't believe you've done all these things. You're showing, all this nudity and sex and this language. You can't do that anymore. That's old school. And we're like, what? Since when?
Well, I mean, that's the type. Yeah. Well, see, that was the thing that confused me too, because I figured that, considering that what the movie was about, I would hope that they would, whoever was looking into the movie, that they knew full and well what they were getting, knowing that there is a market for that out there. Right. Because to be honest with you, when I saw the movie, I was rather surprised that it harkens back a lot to the old days of the slasher movies. There's a lot of, you can tell there's a lot of other influences as well too, from what I gather with the movie, but the aesthetics of the film, as far as like the raunchiness, that's very reminiscent of all the stuff that I remember from the 80s. So
Me too, and that's what I like. So
right.
when
So
it came to making the movie, I wasn't paying attention like things are changing. I was like,
right.
I still like that style. And I remember meeting with a lot of the actors, and a lot of people would automatically just say, hey, even the crew were like, dude, we can't work on this movie. My wife or girlfriend will leave me. There's just no way I can do this. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Because I was watching like Game of Thrones, and I was seeing all these raunchy comedies come out, and I was like, dude, there's stuff out way worse than what I'm wanting to do here. It's not that big a deal. We're on par with what everybody else is doing, and this seems to be what's selling. So I want to hit all the stuff that people are liking. It was like I was trying to go after the comedy genre, the Bigfoot people, the horror people. I was like, I'm just going to get everybody to like this movie. But I had no idea we were going to have all that kickback on it, like through Amazon saying that the movie was just too offensive to put out. And I was like, what? I mean, I even right now I could go through and probably name like 20 movies that are way more offensive than our movie. But
that's currently also on Amazon too, I'm sure.
Right. But the thing is we didn't realize, because we weren't coming in with a distribution company, we had nobody who could fight for us. You know, we're just a standalone title that they don't give a shit about. So that's the bad thing. Like these other companies, they've got like thousands of titles, so they can kind of fight to get your movie on there, even if they don't like it. And you've seen everything. Everything that's come out since our movie is still worse than our movie that's out.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, because we talked about Game of Thrones, and I also heard you mention that before. I remember when I first saw the first season of Game of Thrones. There's children, or more or less a character who are underage, are having sex with older men, and I don't remember hearing anyone flinching about that. I mean, if they did, I don't recall. But I'm sure there were people that complained. But the show was so extremely successful, but it was done in such an artistic and beautiful way, which I'm not going to take anything away from the show, because it is a good show. But it's done in such a way that it doesn't give it that tasteless feel where you feel like I'm watching something really I shouldn't be watching. But it's done so eloquently that you don't have that notion behind it, right? But when you watch your film where a guy's banging a stripper in the middle of the woods and then gets his dick cut off, that's unacceptable. But you do know that Jason Momoa's character was banging a 14-year-old girl in the show, so I don't know which is worse. So
the standard gets really blurred, like with studios, pretty much no matter what they do, and they can almost be porn. It's considered art. I mean, I remember at one time someone was telling me about TikTok. I don't really watch it, but someone was telling me the kids were talking about a movie called Love on Netflix. I was like, what the hell is this? So I just put it on just to see what it is. It's pretty much straight porn. I mean, the opening shot was two people naked just doing their thing, and you're like, this is literally porn on Netflix, like all the way through. Like I would always check out stuff, just do my research to see how the hell did these people get away with it, but I can't even do a little bit of something without getting my wrist slapped. Like they were just shutting me down, and I was like, it's because we don't have any A-list actors, and we didn't go through a big studio, so everything we did, they were coming after us for.
But you would think that but here's the thing, because I think some people tend to forget that because I think they have, in my mind, because this is one of the reasons why I had said to you before about if I like the movie, I will review. If I didn't, I'm not going to review it. And the reason why is because I don't want to shit on indie films, because people work very hard on that stuff. And I don't want to give that preconceived notion of like, this movie wasn't very good. But, the thing is that you don't know why it turned out the way that it did. It could be for a number of different reasons, actors and whatever else. So for me to say, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and not that I'm going to say this movie fucking sucked, I'm not going to do that. But if I say that I didn't like the movie because of these things that were presented in the film, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Someone who already has that preconceived notion will say, if that movie sucked, it's independent. All independent films like that. I don't want to give them that leeway of thinking it's okay to think like that. I want them to be a little more considerate. So, I'm being cognizant of that. But, if there's an independent movie out there that I find amazing, which there are a ton of out there, I will fight and promote the fuck out of the movie if it's really good. In considering the type of genre this movie is, which is a genre that I do love, that's something that I truly am very passionate about to promote. But at the same time, there are some people out there who still have that preconceived notion. Even though they've seen the movie, they still have those mindset of they're not going to want to give the movie a shot for whatever reasons they may have, religious reasons or whatever other reasons they have all that.
Well, then again, like I said, that still doesn't make sense, because over here you've got samples of what else they're putting out.
Yeah.
That's way worse, way more sex, way more nudity. And then over here, you're like, well, why the hell are you saying that you don't accept this kind of stuff on your platform when you're doing all of it? So,
well, again, because there's an art. Yeah, it just makes it's really just all like about the who's behind it, the artistic value that's behind promoting them, that's presented in the movie. So, but if you put in, like you mentioned before, no name actors, and they're fucking a bunch of strippers in the woods, getting their tits cut off, having the tits ripped off. There's no value for that because we don't know who these people are, and there's what's the story behind that. Well, there is a good story. It's just, is it a silly story? Sure, but it's still a good story if you actually paid attention to the plot and listen to the conversations, because there's a lot going on, which is not an easy thing to do in this genre. So basically, you've hit all the check marks in my mind of all the things that we've all seen before, and you commentate on that. And that's like a self-awareness.
It's based on real people, a lot of real events.
Well, and the thing is that I kind of picked up on that you put in a lot of yourself in this movie, because listening to you talk and watching you talk, you have the same vernacular that you're talking out with your character. So I can more or less see what was the inspiration from that, from what I can gather. But well, so let's talk about this here real quick. We've thought the movie Cherokee Creek, for anyone who hasn't seen out there, we've mentioned before, it is available on Amazon. You can rent it, you can buy it, and I highly recommend people to do that. But one other thing too that I also want to point out too is that there are a few things that I was not privy to prior to this movie that I didn't realize that you were in until you had reached out to me and had sent me some stuff. One of which is a movie that I had reviewed fairly recently called Daylight Sin. And the only scene that you have that I remember seeing was that you got shot in the beginning of the movie, and then that was it. But I understand it was a very, very hot environment, having all that stuff on your face and, being in that hot room. I wasn't sure if you could, I was curious if you could share what that experience was like for you while you're working there, because this is a movie that I thought was absolutely phenomenal, and I did not expect to love it as much as I do now.
It was definitely a major, major passion project for Will. And I'm sure he has a lot of obstacles that he had to go through on that movie that I don't even know about. But he would ask me to come out and do different things. He's like, hey, he knew I had my own production company, and he'd be like, hey, you want to come out and do sound today? Because I also do production. I have my own production company. I was like, yeah, I'll come out and do sound for you. And then he's like, you want to come out and do camera? You want to run like B camera, C camera for a lot of the shootout stuff that you saw that was being filmed in Monroe. So I came out and did that. And as I was meeting all the actors and seeing everything that was going on, I was like, dude, this movie's fucking awesome. Will, you got to put me in somewhere. You got to put me in this movie somewhere. I don't care where it is. I know you probably can't give me any lines because the whole movie's already been cast, but I was like, I don't give a shit if it's a stunt, and you shoot me in the head, whatever. I want to be seen somewhere. I want my face somewhere in this movie. And he came back out with that kitchen creature scene where I get shot in the head for me. So that was a huge favor that he did for me for doing all the stuff that I was doing on the crew for him.
So was it really hot that day too? Because like I said before, I heard that pretty much the entirety of the shoot was nothing but high humidity, high.
Right. It was awful. It was super, super hot. And you know what though? I think I like the heat more than I like the cold after doing Cherokee Creek. Because when we did Cherokee Creek, it was always like almost in single digits.
Really?
Yeah, you can't tell, but it's freezing. It is freezing cold. Like near the end of the movie, if you look at some of the vehicles, you'll see the frost on them.
I did notice that. Yeah.
I shot at that point, nobody was coming out to help me. I couldn't get anybody to come out, and not an intern, nobody. So I'm out there. The guys are in the van staying warm, running it, and I'm out setting up the lights and the mic and everything, getting ready to shoot all that ending stuff to the movie.
Wow.
It was either that or it would rain or it would do something. I mean, it was just like the hugest challenge ever.
So but the strippers were
really, really bad too.
So the strippers were really, like that in that cold environment too during the shoot as well.
The strippers got the warmest weather of the entire shoot. We shot them last. They're like one of the last things we shot in the movie. Like we got them. Basically, the property owners had said, "Listen, you got to get this movie finished now because you're about to be dealing with major snake problem." And we're like, what? And also in the beginning of the movie, everything's dead, right? So it's like everything's going to be green around here in like 2 weeks. We're like, oh shit. So it was just like we were just scrambling to get those stripper scenes done.
Okay, well, it's worked out.
So it was probably 50, 60 degrees when they were in it, but it wasn't the single digits.
Okay, so it was tolerable for them to be able to
It
pull it
was
off.
tolerable for them, for
Okay,
sure.
cool. Well, so going back with the Daylight Sin, so you worked on the film. Did you work on the entirety of the project, or just
No,
for?
no, I was just in and out at different parts. I was also acting in other projects at the same time.
Mm,
So whenever I was free, I'd come out and do crew. And it was just it was basically same. I think he may have had some of the same issues I was having because he had so many uh big cast members in the movie. I would think they were probably off doing other movies too. So he'd had to work with their schedule to get them in on certain times.
oh, okay. Well, one story that because I talked to, I'm not sure if you ever met him before, Louis Mandylor, who worked on the film as well
Yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah. I
Okay,
definitely worked with him.
okay. So he was sharing a story, and I've asked if it's okay for me to ask anyone who was worked on the movie about this, but he was telling me of a story where he was shooting a scene in the nest where all the creatures
Right.
were in the basement or in that little bottom floor. He was telling me about a particular story that he had passed out when they were shooting that sequence because he was dehydrating among other things too, and then and it shows that his kidneys had given out. And then I think they had a halt production for about 2 weeks. So I wasn't sure if you were familiar with that
I
particular.
wasn't I wasn't around for that part.
Okay.
I was one of the guys chasing him though. I hit a door so hard and it had glass on it that my
Hmm.
hand went right through it. And I got
Really?
really lucky that it didn't just rip my wrist and arm up. So I did everything I could to get in front of the camera on that movie.
Okay. So what was your experience like with the cast members? You've
They
interacted with
were
Lewis?
awesome. They were
Okay.
awesome. I'd go out to eat with Lewis at night and everybody, and we'd hang out at the hotel and
Okay.
have a couple drinks at the hot tub. It was fun.
Awesome.
That's the great thing about shooting movies on location is everybody stays at a hotel. So whenever you wrap at the end of the day, if you have time, people can have a few drinks or go eat dinner together. So that's what I love about shooting on location in that particular instance. A lot of times, if you're shooting where everybody lives, everybody just kind of goes home and you don't talk to anybody.
True.
You don't have that same camaraderie that you would if you were shooting on location.
And you live out in Dallas right now, right?
I'm in Dallas right now. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
never work in Dallas, so like I'm always like in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been like my savior through this whole pandemic. I worked in Oklahoma most of the time. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, do you feel though as if though the Texas film industry is starting to grow a little bit from your experiences in the last couple of years? Because I know you obviously shot Cherokee Creek in Texas, but I mean, as far as the industry in general, because Robert is one of those few guys that tries his hardest to
Right.
keep everything in Austin.
We just don't have enough tax incentives here, and I hear that they're bringing more stuff here. And I think Fear the Walking Dead is shooting in Austin, and they've been
Okay.
shooting that for a while there. And then they did another Amazon Prime original. I think it was called Panic. They did that in Austin. So there's
Mm,
stuff happening here. I just don't get to work on it. It's weird. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, and
yeah.
unless it was with Will or somebody else, I've never worked in Texas. Like I always am traveling. I have to work in LA, Atlanta, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Oklahoma. I mean, those are all the places I work.
Well, let me ask you something about your time in the industry because we kind of touched upon about the struggles that you went through about making Cherokee Creek, and then being in the industry for 20 some years at this point. Now, going through some of the setbacks you had gone through. Now, at any point did you ever consider just giving up on the industry and just say, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. This is way too difficult. This is way too arduous, and
I
what's
think
the
that's
point?
every day. I
Oh,
think
okay.
every day you think about that, especially if you're trying to have a relationship with your family or friends, or have a girlfriend or wife or anything.
Hmm.
I mean, the industry is horrible for that because you never know when you're going to leave. You never know when you're working. You never know when. Like some months you might make 10 grand, and the next month you might not make $500. I mean, that's just how it is.
But I mean,
It's constantly hustling for work.
right, but is that part of your drive to continue finding work to because you're passionate about the art form, or you're just wanting to are you doing it because what's the best way for me to ask it? I guess what I'm trying to say is it really just for you to do this because this is you've invested so much time and you just don't want to give up?
I just don't want to give up.
Okay, but I mean,
No,
you do love it
I
though,
think I'm
right?
pretty good at it, and I've done, I've competed against a lot of filmmakers and a lot of actors, and I think I do pretty well. It's just about getting the opportunity. It's so, especially being an actor, it's so political, and it's so
Hmm.
hard to even get in the door to get an audition. That's what we were talking about. Like in Texas, I can't even get an audition, and it's all controlled by like one or two people. So if those one or two people have no interest in you, you can't even audition for them. and they're basically like these gatekeepers that can keep you from ever being seen by like Robert Rodriguez or any of the production companies that come to town. They can just never let you get seen by anybody in Texas if they want to. So you basically are just constantly chasing these gigs and trying to figure out where you can get an audition and who's casting it and will they let you audition for it. Like I feel like if I can audition for it, I got a hell of a good chance, but just getting the audition is a pain in the ass.
So the audition process for you out in Texas. So is a lot of self-tape that you are doing from home and then you send them out?
You've got to have an agent that is in that area that you want to work in. Like say you want to go work in Atlanta, right? You got to have an Atlanta agent. And then then you've got to either rent a place there or have a relative or friend that lives there because everything's local hire. Because the only reason they're shooting in Atlanta is because they have to hire local hires. So if you don't have a place there and you don't have a relative or a friend that lives there, you ain't working there.
I had no idea it was that complicated.
Yeah, that's the reason they work there. Like when everybody started leaving LA to go to Atlanta and all these places, it was for tax incentives. So basically, the production that's working in Atlanta will say, hey, based on our agreement with Atlanta to get the tax incentive, we have to hire 15 local actors, period. So then they'll hire a local casting director who will contact the local agencies.
I see.
And then you got to try to get in there. You got to fight like hell to get in there.
So that's one of the stipulations behind that.
That's with everything across the board, especially like Atlanta. Atlanta's like that, Mississippi and New Orleans. I mean, like all those areas, they're like, if you don't live here, you ain't working here.
Unless you're like director, producer who are bringing in the work over there.
Well, I'm talking about as far as acting goes, though. Like as far as acting goes, if they're casting locals there, which they have to cast like whatever X amount of number they're given to casting that they have to find that many locals, then you got to fight like hell to try to get in there.
I had no idea.
Everybody fighting like hell to get in there. I mean, people from LA are flying their asses in there too, which can get really expensive because they might, especially with COVID, they may have you over there sitting there for a week, not getting paid, and you're just hanging out taking COVID tests.
I had no idea.
So actors really are always losing their ass. Like I tell everybody who wants to get in the business, like, dude, you're going to lose your ass. Like if you don't like spending $40 to tape an audition or $300 on headshots, wait till you got to audition for shit. It's going to get expensive because you're just chasing it. You're always chasing it. And it used to be before COVID, you'd have to go and do callbacks with them. So you might have to go and do anywhere from 2 to 3 callbacks and just fly your ass over there. So you may have spent $3,000 or $4,000 chasing some role that's only going to pay you like $1,500.
Well, but I've already talked about it. I've touched upon it before with you. So you're still doing this because I know you mentioned you don't want to give up, but I mean, do you still have a passion for it though? Pursuing this here and following through with this all?
Oh yeah, definitely have a passion. Like it, even through COVID, which was really weird. When you're just like, I just want to quit this shit, forget, I'm going to go do something else. Right. You've had enough and you're like, and you hear the story from all the actors usually who make it. When you've had enough and you're like, I've reached my breaking point, I'm going to quit. Something happens that brings you back. Like I think I booked probably 6 or 7 films all consecutively. They were just one after another. It was crazy. And I was kicking ass until June of this year. And then it just went dead. So right now I'm like, oh Jesus, now where am I? It's like you have to start all over. That's the weirdest thing about acting. It's not like everything else. You constantly have to prove yourself and start over from zero once you've done all these projects, which is really weird to me.
That's amazing. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor, but I was wanting to be an actor for all the wrong reasons. It was more for like superficial reasons, right?
Sure.
But then as I got older, I became more aware of what's involved in going and having to book a role and then not knowing all the other details as far as like what you just mentioned now, working at a location where you have to have local hire. And then if you're not living in the area, you can't get a job and so on. So when as the years have gone by, obviously there's a lot that's changed with the entertainment industry for a number of different reasons. Theaters are at one point was considered to be like an obsolete form of releasing movies. And then now you have streaming platforms, cable is kind of going on the wayside of eventually down the line, it's just going to be virtually obsolete, in my opinion. But, everything has changed a great deal when it comes to how people get access to movie, which as a result has changed everything else as far as how you can get a movie too, or how you can get a part in the movie.
Right.
But, you being in the industry for that long, when you first got into it, did you ever understand of what the difficulties that lie ahead for you as becoming an actor or working behind the scenes and seeing virtually every aspect of the industry in every department? Did you ever notice anything that, I don't know, this doesn't look to be a good change for the industry, or a good change but rough for other people in this department, or whatever the case may be? Like,
Right.
did you ever feel like there was anything that may have spooked you a little bit or excited you throughout the years you've been there?
It didn't really spook me. I think when you start out, you just think you can do it. You're very confident. A lot of people, at least when I started out, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it ended up being.
Mm.
And the thing is what you don't understand is when you get involved with these productions, because I started right away getting involved in producing and doing post-production, because a lot of the movies I was working on were just so bad. So I would get involved in these independent productions. I wasn't really acting so much for probably the first 10 years I was in it. It was more just like producing. And if I was producing something and there was a role in the project, then I would put myself in it somewhere. It wasn't usually a big role. It might be like 1 or 2 scenes or something like that. And then I would get stuck on it, not knowing it was going to take 2 or 3 years of post-production, film festivals, and then trying to get the movie sold. That was the old way. Like you would just like, you spend like a year doing film festivals, and then you try to get distribution. So you could literally lose like 2 or 3 years of your life per movie. And I was like, dude, I don't want to work like that. That's just too much damn time. So that's why I finally decided to do Cherokee Creek. I was just kind of getting fed up with everything. And I was like, I can do all this on my own, and I can go a lot faster. Like I thought I could shoot the movie in less than 4 to 6 weeks, and then I could get it done in 2 months, not knowing that I was going to have all these huge scheduling challenges with the actors. But even then, I still got the movie shot out in less than a year, though.
How long did it take for you to shoot the movie again?
6 months because of the schedules. Okay. But we were shooting in Melissa, and we really couldn't start till 11 o'clock at night. And then we'd have to wrap about 5 a.m. because the damn noise was just horrible. The traffic sound, even though you're in the middle of the woods and everything, you can still hear traffic from 10, 15 miles away. You're still hearing all that. And then you'd hear the planes flying over until 11 o'clock at night. It's like nowhere we could go, we could escape the planes. So you'd have planes going over every 2 minutes, blowing your take. So I was like, dude, we're just not going to start till 11 o'clock at night when the planes have slowed down and we can actually dig into these takes and get some good takes. So we would only film from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. when we were filming.
Well, so, and as you're going through as you went through all this now, has your perception changed a lot as far as how you are going to be handling yourself in these situations moving forward? As far as if eventually you come down the line and doing another film, I know you're going to do things more differently, but has that tainted your perception about, what, I don't want to do this again, or if I do want to do this again, but this time I know how to go about it moving forward?
I have no problem doing it again. I don't want to use all my money. I did the Kevin Smith way where I was putting everything on the credit card. So that wasn't the smartest way to do it. But I always thought we had a winner with the movie because when we were dealing with distributor, you could log into the account and see how much money or how many sales you were generating. And when I saw that we were in third place on iTunes in the horror comedies, I just started putting tons of money in. So we held that position for as long as I was putting money into advertising. I think I put 10 grand in. So we were killing it. I mean, there's no telling how much money we were making, but we weren't getting the real numbers from the company. So there's no telling. I probably lost out anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 just in that short amount of time.
So what would be the first thing you would do differently? If
I just want to find out a way. And right now we're part of this group that's trying to figure out a way to get your movie out without getting ripped off. And it's been, since COVID happened, I've just kind of been sitting on Cherokee Creek because I'm like, well, what's to stop these other companies from doing it? Because unfortunately, law enforcement didn't do anything to these people. There's thousands of us that lost millions of dollars through distributor. and nobody's doing anything. Like they were contacting the FBI and every kind of law enforcement they could to see if there's any laws against what they did, and nobody's done anything to these people. They pretty much just stole our money and got away scot-free. So that's the thing that's scary, because it had never happened in the history of filmmaking. Now, I know distribution companies can do that to you, but not the people who were supposed to be just handling the accounting. So right now, everybody's just kind of scared, going, well, shit, how do we do it now? Like, how do we bring our movie out without the same thing happening again?
So, you know, when you're looking at it now, from this perspective here, going through what you just did, you know, are you going to be more cognizant about how you're going to involve certain people that will help with that along the way to help promote the movie? Or are you trying to do more a guerrilla style, at least for the time, at least if you're considering doing another movie where you're not going to go through all the general, process for you to
I would much rather just give it to a distribution company, even though you lose so much money doing that. It's so hard. Like I was spending, back before all these algorithms kicked in on Facebook and Instagram and all that, I was spending like 24/7 on there, just doing podcasts and meeting fans and doing all that. So it was going to be worth it to me if the $250,000 was going to come into my bank account, sure. But now that you find out you get zero, you're like, hell no, I don't want to do that again.
Wow. So, you know, this is another thing that I also like want to point out with people that listen and watch this here is I'm a very strong proponent for people to be aware of what it takes to make a movie and what it takes for them to understand that, you know, people may watch a movie and say, oh, that's a really good film, but I always hope that they would take the time out of the day to listen to what it took to make the movie, because if they understood the hard work and the value of, you know, what it takes to make a movie, and then you're seeing that spectacle more or less about, you know,
Right.
see how good it is, you know, I think it adds a different perspective about how, you know, how you would view the movie. So, you know, stories like this is one of the reasons why I hope that I could try to help in some way or shape or form to bring more awareness to this stuff here too.
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, like we did have a huge amount of supporters when it first came out. That 6 months, the first 6 months when I was putting all the money in there and I was dealing with all the battles of getting it on Amazon and all that. But once we got it off there, I mean, I had to fight like hell just to get it off iTunes and all those other things, so that company wasn't still stealing our money. So it's just kind of like they took the wind out of my sails. So it was about going back, regrouping, getting some money together, figure out how to re-release the movie, and then COVID hit. So my only thing was, well, why don't I just focus on the acting portion? If I can become a recognizable name in enough movies, then that will help the value of Cherokee Creek, and then I can re-release it again in the future.
So with what you're working on right now, with these upcoming projects, I know some of them you can't really mention here, but do you think that you know, as time goes by, there's going to be are you optimistic about what could possibly be coming down the pipeline for you, as far as being more aware of this film and being aware of you as an actor, right, and everything else associated with your work? Do you think that will be something that will come to fruition to have?
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that people will become less offensive. They will find the movie less offensive in the future than they do right now. You know what I mean? Because right now, like, a lot of people are just looking for something to be offended by. I feel like. Well, so, you know, so our movie's not going to be for those type of people.
I don't find the movie offensive, so I don't understand where people are coming from. I understand why they feel offended, but I don't think it's offensive by any means. There's really nothing that you're doing in that movie that's really singling out any particular group or any singling out any particular.
We would be surprised. I mean, like we were getting hit by the Me Too movement a little bit, and then I mean, we even got hit by some Native Americans just because of the poster. They thought we were making fun of Native Americans with the poster, and I was like, what? Like,
I didn't think that at all.
They thought it was a Native American on the poster. I'm like, no, it's a Bigfoot, and Cherokee Creek's just a place. And there's real places named Cherokee Creek. I mean, we had nothing to do. We weren't trying to offend any Native people. We weren't trying to piss off the Me Too movement. We weren't doing any of those things that they think that we were trying to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I guarantee half people who are complaining about it probably never even saw the movie in the first place. That's the most common thing that I've come across when people are making these complaints, that they probably didn't even.
Well, you know what it is? A lot of them what I found out when I did my research, a lot of them were also independent filmmakers. And they didn't like the attention our movie was getting because their horror film or their movie they made didn't get that attention. So they would just come and shit on us.
So instead of showing support,
their wives to shit on us and talk shit about us online. So it was like, what?
So, but that's the thing. This is I mean, I hate to single out the community like this, but this is a community, a film community, I should say. So instead of supporting, hey, this film is doing really well. Hey, can we talk to you about, your movie? But we also want to know, would you check out our film and, let us know what you think, give us some pointers and so on and so, because you look like you're doing very well. So on. That's what I think. To me, that is community. Whether no matter what community you are, but that's community, in my opinion. You are reaching out, you're helping out, and you are offering an olive branch, if you will, to show, hey, we can all do this here, but you have to put in your work, but we will help you along the way if we can. And it's I think that's how it's supposed to be, in my opinion. But yeah,
I wish, man. I wish.
I wish too. I really do wish.
It seems like if you're an actor, all the actors are kind of like sometimes the actors are trying to sabotage each other. The filmmakers are trying to sabotage each other. It's a whole lot of this, hey, fuck you, you're on that team. We're going to go come up with our own team and we're going to kick your team's ass type thing. It's weird like that, but there's just these little niche groups that want to be the best at what they do, and they're going to do what they can to sabotage this other group. And unfortunately, that's happened a lot around me that I've noticed and witnessed.
What's the worst have you experienced as far as the retaliation from filmmakers or actors, whoever else? What's the worst you've experienced?
Oh God, I've actually had a couple guys just hire me so they could treat me like shit on set and then fire me.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, they're that bad. They're that bad.
But they paid you.
No, they didn't.
Not at all.
No, I didn't take them to court or anything. I mean, it wasn't enough for the day rate to do it, but I figured it out. You can kind of figure out when you're there what their objective is. You're like, okay, so you just literally brought me here to shit on me today. And then and then I'll go back and read their comments online. There's a couple filmmakers around here that just write these really harsh comments, and some of them you'll find on Amazon. And it's funny, if you research who they are, they go in and give their movies like these amazing reviews that they made, that they directed, and then they shit on everybody else who's acted or directed other movies.
All right. Well,
so I'm just like, dude, that is so fucking childish. But it's funny to me. I mean, I guess I don't really fight back that much because I think being
picking and choosing your battles,
it's not worth it. I think I piss them off more by just continuing to do bigger, better things.
Yeah.
And let them just stay. Because the fact that people are still writing shit about me 3 years later after the movie came out, it's like, dude, you missed your window. Like, that was 3 years ago. You're just now jumping on this. But I mean, go and look at the recent stuff on Amazon or IMDb, and you'll see, if you look up some of those people, they're all independent filmmakers.
Yeah, well, the way I see it is that if you have time out of your day to shit on somebody else, you could have been doing that on more productive things to make your
right.
film
I'm just like, dude, if I want to shit on somebody, I don't even want to shit on anybody, but I wouldn't take the time to even watch their movie. The fact that they're taking the time to watch my movie and then doing it, it means it's really bothering them for some reason. So
there's an issue with them. Dude.
If that's the way you want to spend your time, shitting on other filmmakers and doing that, go right ahead.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing I'm seeing around here as far as the independent community around here. There's a distribution company out there that gives these filmmakers, I think, like their first 30 grand to make the movie, and they own 100% of the rights. So they don't pay their actors. They don't pay hardly anybody. And they're just trying to shit out these movies like every 2 months, 2 or 3 months. And they're terrible movies. But they get to call themselves award-winning filmmakers, or like, hey, the 10th film by so-and-so or whatever. To me, to make a movie, you really got to put in some time and some energy to make it right, and then to get it released. But it's a weird trend, man. And some of these companies are charging so much to put actors in the movie. I don't know if you've heard of that. But they'll be like selling roles for these movies. Like, some people are paying thousands of dollars just to get a credit on a movie as a producer, or thousands of dollars to be able to act in there, alongside some named actor from the like 70s or 80s. It's weird.
It's so interesting.
So that's not the route I want to go. I mean, to me, that doesn't seem appealing. Like, but obviously those guys are killing it. I mean, they live in big houses and they've got a great life for themselves.
Yeah, but at other people's expenses.
I mean, they're just getting by and they're making these movies probably for, you know, anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000.
You know, I do hope that I really do hope that, you know, that your film does catch on with the public, and especially with, you know, within this community. But again,
Right.
it's a thing that I really hope that would happen, where when they finally catch on, that they will, you know, appreciate the movie, then they'll learn after the fact. And I'm pretty sure at that point you'll probably have to rehash everything all over again, but probably from
Right.
a much happier position now, rather than, you know, where you're in right
It's
now.
what keeps you going, though. I think if it would have been easy, maybe it wouldn't have been as good. You know, I think that
It's
the
possible.
thing that you just run into all these roadblocks, and it becomes like this hell, this war against everybody to just get the damn thing done no matter what. And when you go back, and I don't know if you've seen these specials on Netflix, it's like I think it's called The Movies That Made Us.
Yeah.
And they talk about how hard any of those movies were to make. But anytime you talk to like directors who made these hits, they're all telling you how much hell they went through, and
Hmm.
how the studios threatened to fire them constantly, and they wanted to fire the actors, and they thought they all sucked. And you just have to fight like hell for every.
Yeah, listen, I was going to point out that I'm extremely grateful that you have reached out, because you know, what I'm always looking to do is really push for people that have a project that they truly believe in. And you know, it's not an easy thing to go and share, because when I came across actually a review for your movie, actually last night, and out of respect, I won't say what channel it was, but it was somebody that you did reach out to directly, because you were, you know, promoting the movie and reaching out to everybody in the community.
Right.
And they specifically said, yeah, Todd reached out to me, and I I just wasn't interested. And I remember thinking, like, you know, I wish you guys did check out the movie at that time, because that's really where the film was at its heights. And your channel, considering that it was a pretty well established channel at that point, could have really helped out the movie.
Oh, that
Uh,
I think I know which one you're talking about. They hate the movie. They
yeah.
hate the movie.
And when I saw the review, and I was like, you guys are, I mean, I'm not the type of person to be, you know, fuck you guys, I'm not that guy. But I remember distinctly thinking, I guarantee they had no idea what happened behind the scenes to make the movie. And I think that might have changed the perception, whether or not they would have
They
liked the
said they
film.
didn't care, because I think a lot of our fans went on their YouTube channel and said that. They're like, dude, like, why do you not like this movie? Like, what's the deal? And
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's one of those things where,
they just didn't get it. They didn't like it. I
right.
don't know, because they like a lot of movies that are less value, less production value than our movie, that I didn't really get. So I
Mhm.
thought it would be up their alley to check it out. But I think they waited like a year and a half to even look at it.
Yes, that's
Maybe
exactly
2
right.
years or something
So,
like that.
and I'm not saying that, you know, I don't like the channel. It's not that, but it's, you know, it's just that moment in time. Maybe the perception have changed, and it just has to be re-brought up again. Who knows? But
It's
the medium has changed, in my opinion, as far as how we tend to look at things now. Where before, I think if you made this movie back in the '90s, it probably would have been just as difficult, and probably more difficult for you to be able to get this film out. Now, in this day and age, it's a little more accessible for you to be able to do things a little more easier. But I wouldn't say easier; it's probably the wrong word to use. But it's more,
I think the thing is, it's easier to get movies out now, but it's harder to have a successful movie now, because the
right.
market's just so oversaturated with crap. It's hard to get people to sit down and watch something because they have so many damn choices. So they may think about even our movie, they might be like, oh yeah, I want to watch that, but it may not come back around in their mind for like a year or two. You never
Right.
know. There's
Yeah.
just
Well,
so much stuff, and so much stuff to choose from. Like when we were growing up, or at least me, because I'm in my 40s now, there wasn't that many movies coming out. So everything that came out, you watched it. And even for actors back then, if you were in like 1 or 2 movies, man, you know, you were on your way. Now
yeah.
you could be in 50 movies and nobody knows who the hell you are.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. The
it's a
landscape
whole
has changed. Yeah.
market.
And the landscape has changed a lot, because I remember as a kid, because I'm in my late 30s, but you know, when I was growing up, you know, you could literally just put in an actor's name, and that would sell the movie. You know, now
Sure.
it's virtually impossible to have an actor be on the marquee, and it's going to sell the film. It's
Right.
like you have to add on certain supplements to be able to get garner people's interest to want to see the movie in the first place. So you put a Will Smith in a DC comic book movie. Oh my God, Will Smith! You know, I loved him in Independence Day, but now
Right.
he's playing comic book character. So that adds more value to, because that name still holds something. But you put Will Smith in, like, you know, a romantic comedy again, probably won't sell as well as it did
Right.
10
Or
years ago.
drama or something like that.
Right.
You know.
Right. So it's, you know,
The
the market
market is
has,
very fickle right now. It's hard to
right.
tell what the hell people are going to watch and what they're not going to watch.
Right. And that's another thing too, that I think, you know, people don't realize how you said it best. It's a fickle business. And it's, you know, people who think they know what's successful, but in the long term, you'll understand the films that have lasted through, that has outlasted some of the more successful ones. Like, for example, like Shawshank Redemption was a movie that I remember when as a kid, never saw it in theaters, but I remember specifically hearing that it didn't do very well. It's another box office failure. I mean, it did
Right. And I
decently,
think
but
that's
not
how most of John Carpenter's movies were. They were all
right.
bombs. They
John
were all
is
my favorite movies.
right. The thing was, when it came out, it has one of the most amazing scores by Ennio. I forgot how to pronounce
Right.
his last name, but you know,
Thing is awesome.
it's a damn near perfect movie, and it still holds up so much better this day than
I
most of
think
the
so
films.
too. Yeah.
And it's a very, very well thought out and very, very well paced movie. But at the time, no one cared for it. And then
Nope.
years later, it held up. And now all of a sudden, the fans that had come across it on TV are holding it such high regard. And then it just started regenerating. Well, no, what really started working was that I started getting more money. Hey, the movie is
Right.
doing very well. People want to buy it, are interested in checking it out. Then the value started going up because the money started coming in, because the fans, such as myself and many other people like yourself, were spending money because we're actually looking to purchase it.
Right.
Because we want that for ourselves, for us to carry wherever we go. So that has also like helped out a great deal. So when they noticed where the money was going, okay, now we understand the value behind it. And that goes the same for Shawshank Redemption. I remember when the Blu-ray special edition came out, I bought that. Same thing with the
Sure.
DVD too, because it's a great movie. And now they have more.
I'm hoping that happens with our movie eventually. And a lot of the actors who came, some of the people who were in our movie, it was their first movie, and they've all went on to do big things. And I don't know if you recognize the sheriff guy at the end of the movie. He was in The Hunt.
The Hunt. Is that?
Did you see The Hunt?
I'm trying to remember if that name sounds familiar, because there's two movies
You're
I
like,
remember
don't
called The
that
Hunt.
movie. Well, anyway, The Hunt is an awesome movie if you haven't seen it. So check that one out.
Who's in that movie? An actor that's in the movie.
Oh God, I can't even think of her name.
Yeah, because there's a movie that's called The Hunt, but it's a Danish movie. That's the first one that came up to mind.
No. This is like people are being hunted, you know, at the beginning throughout the movie. They're being hunted because of their political beliefs or whatever. It was like a big.
The new one that just came out like last year.
Yeah. That's
I know what you're talking about. I have not seen that movie.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Okay,
it's great. But one of our actors got a really good role in that.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So yeah, it's kind of that thing. And to circle back what you were talking about earlier about the running time, I did 2 test screenings with a movie with about 600 people total for the 2 screenings, and I did think it was running a little long, but they loved it. They didn't have a problem with it. So I was like, well, I think the problem is it's one of those movies you got to watch with a group.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it by myself. I mean, I still had fun with it.
I think it's what. But I think it's more enjoyable if you got like 5 or 6 of your buddies over and you're having a couple beers and you're just like making fun and having a good time with the movie. Mm-hmm. Just seeing it in that group and environment with a packed theater, there was nothing like it. Nothing's ever compared to that. And when we were doing test screenings at my studio, we'd still invite like 10 or 12 people over to watch it. So that's how we were always getting our feedback. We were always getting the feedback from lots of people. It was never like, hey, we're going to sit down one person and just watch and see how they react.
How was that experience like for you when it came to test screening? Because I always kind of figured that test screening is kind of like the bane of, you know, the filmmaking process, because, you know, you're going to get an opinion from somebody, you know, that's kind of the general consensus that doesn't know shit about movies, and they're going to say, you know, what worked and didn't work, but you're like, did you even pay attention to the movie? Do you understand what this genre is even about? You know, do you understand the motive behind there's always opinions about what makes a good movie for them, and then they kind of go off of that and they say, well, you got to cut it out because, you know, Bob submitted this rating here and said that doesn't work, so you got to take it out. I always found that to be rather ridiculous. But for you in this particular case, it seems like it actually benefited you, and virtually you kind of kept the film it's the same, not having to cut out most of the things you wanted that you thought.
I was having the
out.
audience filmed is what I was doing. I was filming the audience reactions more than anything.
Oh, okay.
It was to film their reactions, and then I had a camera crew doing that, and then I had a camera crew grabbing people as they were coming out and getting interviews from people that I didn't know from jack shit. I didn't know any of these people, so they had no reason to lie. You know, they were giving their straight, honest opinions. So that was just what I went off of. You know, I didn't go in and ask each one of them a bunch of questions. I just went off of like, does that scene work? Like people were like, you should cut out the dick bar manager scene where he knocks on the window
Yeah.
and he does all that. Like, that scene's not necessary.
No, but it worked.
But James Yeager is a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of James Yeager. He's a fan of mine. And I asked him to come do that part for me. And he, at the time when he did it, he has a tactical training school where he trains people how to use different guns and stuff. And he had trained Jeremy Renner for some of his movies. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dude, of course I'm going to have this guy come and make an appearance. When he posts anything, it's going to go out to 500,000 people. Why would I not want him in the movie? And then, some people would be like, you should cut that scene. I don't think it had any value to the movie. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not cutting that scene.
No, I thought it was, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, because I kind of agree that it probably didn't need to be there, but if anything, it actually added more. It was a quirkiness about that, because it seemed kind of, it seemed out of place, but it was actually a welcome event, if you will. Right. Yeah. And, you have the wife who was, because you get more insight about the wife. He's like, you've been here for the past, 6 Saturdays, getting dicks and stuff. I was like, holy shit. So it adds more incentive to keep it, because you already knew what the wife was doing, but it's just the first time she's doing it, because you really didn't have that much of an idea
until he comes up.
Until he comes out, he's like, I recognize you, and yeah, you got to pay your tab, and then she runs off. Like, what a fucking bitch! But that was awesome, because that is the impact that it left. So I thought it worked.
Right.
Well, so I mean, the point I was asking about the test screening audiences. So how does that work? Are you submitting an application to get someone to get?
No, it wasn't I called it a test screening for me. It wasn't like an official one that they do in Hollywood.
Okay.
It was just me going, hey, come and check this out. And if it didn't work, if I watched the video, of the reactions, I would know I was going to base it on what the crowd was doing. Like how much was the crowd into it, and were they getting the different, were the laughs coming where I would hope they would come? And sometimes there would be more laughs than I expected. So it was like a nonstop party when we were at these screenings. And I'd also bring in like a stand-up comic that would kind of insult some of the people in the audience before it ever got started. So we were warming up the crowd for what they were going to be getting into before the movie started.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you about the humor in the movie, because this was, because you wrote the film. Did you? I wasn't sure if that's something that. I guess what I'm trying to ask here is that, with the humor that was in the movie, you said a lot of you took a lot of inspiration from real life events that kind of filtered into the script. Sure. And then, so a lot of the humor came from those specific inspirations, or was it just altered and then you added the humor to that?
I would always tell the guys they could improv some. Everybody, if you wanted to improv on stuff, just make sure we stuck to the story. The Chad character was a real person.
Okay.
I'm still friends with him, believe it or not.
Okay. Chad is the atheist, right?
Right. Chad's the atheist who's he's into doing drugs, but he just can't take. He's one of those guys who can't just let us have our fun around the campfire. He has to shit on us. No matter what, he's going to shit on the thing and tell you how you're a liar and that stuff doesn't exist. There's no such thing as Bigfoot, no UFOs, nothing like that. I think what happened, I think the night where he was pissing on the tents and stuff, I think we kind of came up with that together that night. That wasn't part of the script, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
And then if you remember the scene where we're all sitting around the campfire with the park ranger doing like these whip pans.
Yeah.
That kind of happened because she had came in from LA, the park ranger lady, and she had to be somewhere. And on my way to set, my assistant was in the car with me, and I was talking to him about it. I said, we've only going to have this lady for a little while. So why don't we just write a scene where we can just do these quick whip pans between people, and then those people can leave. So a lot of it seems like we're all sitting around the campfire.
Yeah, but it worked.
But we're really not, because we shot it, and I would just like say, I'm going to say this, she's going to say that, and that's how that scene got born. So we shot that real quick with me, and then she left. So all of them are gone, and then I'm just basically holding up my hand saying, okay, talk to this hand, talk to this hand. So the actors were just talking to different places I was holding my hands.
Yeah. Well, and there's the thing too about the movie that I really did appreciate, and I don't know, I'm gonna kind of harp back to the other channel here, but they mentioned something about the fact that Bigfoot's barely in the movie, and when he's in the movie, it doesn't have an impact. I was like, well, I think that actually served that actually did a service for the movie, because you have time to spend with the characters, because that's really the most biggest problems that I love the genre. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of shitty films that I love and I hold dearly to my heart, and the character development is awful, but for whatever reason I still connect with the story and some of the characters. Sure. But one of the most common problems that I've had with a lot of horror movies is that the characters are terrible. They're not very good.
True.
And this is one of the very few times where I honestly was expecting to be more or less in that category, but it was the exact opposite of that, where you have time to spend with the characters. They're talking about derogatory things, but the things that they're talking about, you're learning about the person's behavior, their patterns,
Sure.
if you will. And then slowly, once you've got introduced to how the person is, and then your character comes out, Jinx comes out and says, you're planting your seed all over these women. And you're like, oh, that makes sense because he was fucking that girl earlier. And so now I understand, so there's a bigger picture behind this character that you tend to notice. But now that this was exposed, you're like, oh, that makes more sense because you had the time to spend with the characters to see where they're coming from. And then someone else kind of just shines the light in other areas. You're like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was over there too. So
Right.
I
And that was the
appreciated
main
that.
reason for the campfire scene is a lot
Right.
of people said that some people might say that's too long, but I was like, if I don't have that scene in there, you don't know who each person is and what the beliefs are.
Yeah,
You can't
I think
establish
that was a
each
very
character
integral
who they
scene.
are in the
Yeah.
campfire scene.
Yeah, I
So
think that was a
I
very
really like
integral
that
scene.
scene a lot.
Yeah, same here. Well, another thing too that I love about the movie was Bigfoot was really not the biggest attraction in the movie. I mean, he is the reason for the horror that was going to happen in the movie, but really the cream of the film is really with the characters.
Sure,
And
definitely.
you've got a variety of characters, but how I view it is that they all really serve the purpose, whether they were there for a short period of time or they kind of popped up out of nowhere, but they have filled in a gap that to help you understand why they were there in the first place, and they didn't feel like it was a wasted character. And then when they were offed in some way or shape or form, I didn't feel that notion of like, you know what, I'm glad they're gone because I didn't like them. I never had felt that at all with these characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know how often you come across with people that would give you props about that, because I think is well deserved. If you don't hear it enough, I'm more than happy to
Thank
give you
you.
all the
I
props in the
appreciate
world,
that. I'm glad
because
that you enjoyed it because we made the movie for people like you. I mean, that's who we made it for.
well, I think it should be
When you get what we were going for, that's exactly what we want, and that's
right.
awesome to hear.
Well, I think it's also meant for people who aren't fans of the genre that could still enjoy it as well too, because I think this is the movie that I think will be the gateway for the fans who love the genre and say, I know you hate horror movies, but you gotta watch this movie. That's the gateway, and that's the way. That's how I feel like it should be spread out. And then the friend that doesn't care for this stuff will probably go back home to someone else and say, I just watched this fucking crazy movie. And I got to tell you, I did not think I was going to like it, but this is actually a really funny movie. It's very graphic, but you know what? You should watch
Well,
it.
I wanted to keep you guys guessing, and anytime you thought something might be like too gross or too taboo, you're like, he's not going to go there, is he? And then I do.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I appreciated. But and that's the thing too, because that's what we were talking about before about how it was offensive. I never found the film to be offensive in the first place, so I was really surprised that when people are saying that it's very offensive because there's dicks and there's vaginas. It was barely any vaginas really, but
Yeah.
there's breasts and there's limbs being cut off. What did you
But the dick
expect?
parts were all funny. So
Right? Yeah.
it's supposed to be funny, and it
I
didn't have any more male nudity than anything else I was seeing on
right.
movies at the time. So
You know what I thought was really funny is when you have your dick shot in the movie, and then you're getting some action, and then your dick gets cut off. I don't know if this was on purpose. Maybe it's just because that was the only prop you had available, but I thought it was hilarious that you still had when your dick got cut off, it still has that sizable erection because everyone was grabbing it like a hot dog. I was
the
like,
funny
how?
thing about that is they kept getting stolen, and we don't know where they were going. I bought one. I finally found one I could buy. Like some people were like saying they had ordered one from this company and they never came in. So I ordered a couple, and then I gave them to the special effects team, and then they wanted to make one better. And one of them didn't work, and then one of them did kind of work. But they would disappear. We were like, who the hell's taking these dicks? Like whatever. So there's a few different ones in the movie that
I kind of picked up on that, yeah. But I mean, again, yeah, it's just like it's funny because I don't know if that was intentional though, because I'm assuming that probably wasn't. But there you have this realism of
I think it was just more funny to have it that way.
right.
So that's why I chose it, because realistically, it would have shrunk and been this tiny thing.
Right.
It would have been funny if he was doing that as well, but I probably wasn't thinking about it. And a lot of the movie was shot out of order.
Yeah.
So that stuff was shot at a different time than like when we originally shot my reveal scene, it came out blurry or something was wrong with it. And I was like, fuck. And the funny thing is I was talking to the character that plays Vinny Blades.
Yeah.
I'd be like doing 2-a-days at the gym, and at 3 a.m. I'd be like, dude, I'm still fucking up here doing like 6 miles on the treadmill or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink anything because you want to try to look your best for this nude scene. And then you get out there and it just go to shit. So I shot that by myself, the reveal scene. And the guy that was my intern that was filming my stuff whenever I was on camera, mm-hmm. He was the stand-in for it. And then I just told him to leave. I was like, dude, just leave. We've already tried to shoot this with you like a couple times. It didn't work out. So I'm going to film you. We're going to mark where you're standing. And then I'm going to film it by myself. So I ended up filming that by myself.
That's amazing. Well, so, I mean, yeah, again, like I said before, there were some funny gags in the movie, and a lot of it's exaggerated, but I think that was part of the appeal because it's, to me, it was kind of like I don't mean to say it to I don't know how you feel if I would say this, but it was like a cartoon where it's exaggerated, but the exaggeration is part of the charm, it's part of the comedy. The fact that they're grabbing a chopped off dick that's oversized and still keeps its erection, and they're like holding it, and they're rubbing it around their, waving it around their faces and stuff. It's hilarious. Like, that's hilarious. And I mean, who would find that offensive? And then there's like when they're flipping over the stripper and her tits are falling off, and they're like, oh my God, they find that disgusting, but they're grabbing dicks and they're like, wait, it's like, so I don't understand what so anyway, so I thought that was hilarious. There's a lot of funny things about this movie. And I really hope that people who are listening and watching this, they're going to be like, I got to see this movie, because that is the reason why I think this movie, not because of just the dicks, but I thought
about going back and making it look more realistic, but I was like, that just won't work though.
No, it wouldn't. I'm glad you didn't do that.
Well, even with the girl's head, that wasn't her head. That was the stripper's head that I ended up firing that didn't show up. And we just threw the wig on it. And we knew it didn't look that good. But what I did was I paid a visual effects artist to go in and make the eyes blink.
Oh, wow. That's right.
So I don't know if you noticed now, if you go back.
I don't remember that.
She's got the dick in her mouth. Her eyes are blinking.
Yeah. I got to watch it now. I'm so glad you pointed out, because I don't remember seeing that. I saw the movie twice.
Yeah, it was just like a little something. I go, the head doesn't look good, but you know what will make it even more funny is if the eyes are blinking with the dick's in the mouth.
That's hilarious. I didn't notice that. I'm going to watch it again.
Well, there were people who said they would put the movie out, but it's like, hey, we'll help you get the movie out, but you're going to have to take all the dicks out and all the sex and nudity and all these things that you're saying. I'm like, that's the movie though. I'm not.
Yeah, it's like those are the best parts. All the best scenes are where all the dicks are at. So you got to keep it. Like, it's kind of odd to say that, but it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's funny. Well, and here's the thing. For anyone out there who is maybe hesitant as we're talking about it to check out the movie, I always say this here. Look, if you find nudity to be offensive, then maybe this isn't your cup of tea. But right. I always say that, listen, give it a shot, watch it. The worst thing that could happen is that you don't like it, and that's fine. But if you remove all the dicks and all the tits, you're going to get a good story. And that's really the thing that I've connected with the movie, is that you get a great story.
Shock value stuff in there. And the other part was pretty funny, where the guy was going to the bathroom, because he'd eaten the hot dogs and everything. Yeah. when I brought that stuff out for him to use, he was like, dude, he got really upset with me. He thought it was the real deal. And I was like, no, man, it's like chocolate peanut butter. But he thought it was the real deal. He was
I saw. So I'm so glad you actually went down that route, because I remember when I was watching the first time, I was like, I was wondering, are they really going to show, the shit being dropped out? Because there was, did you actually shoot something like that or no?
No, I didn't shoot. No, that was the peanut butter and the chocolate.
No, I understand. But I remember specifically thinking that, that I thought you were going to actually shoot an actual, there was going to be an actual scene where there's shit coming out, like an actual, like,
you don't see it come out, but you see it hit the ground.
Well, the reason I bring this up is this, because we talked about, censorship, right? How certain streaming, we don't want. There was a James Franco movie that came out. It was called Child of God. The opening scene is literally with a character taking a shit. Literally, you see the shit coming out of his ass.
Wow.
That was the opening scene. That was on Netflix, just years ago, mind you.
Right.
So I remember that.
I mean, I've seen all that. So it's all programmed into my head at this point. So anything I did in the movie, I'd seen it somewhere along the lines, and I just wanted to do it and push it to that level a little different. But some of them had done it worse than I had done it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, because like I'm watching that and I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna really go that far, because you've already went far enough as it is already with all the Dixons and whatnot. So I thought, well, he's gonna go push it very further, and I thought it was gonna be hilarious. But but the fact that you didn't do it, didn't ruin the experience obviously for me. But the guy's wiping his ass, and he's like, holy shit, and I was like, I know how that feels, because I've taken shits in the woods before. They didn't have any toilet paper, so there's a lot that's
something that realistically happens to people, and people are like, oh, that's so disgusting, why would you do that? I'm like, dude, I've been out in the woods and that's happened to me. Or you've been out in the middle of the lake or something, you swam way out there and you're like, oh shit, I gotta go, and I'm not gonna make it back to shore, and then I can't get to there's no boat, what do I do?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Drop a deuce and pull off the shorts and just let it fall. Yeah. So I've seen that before too. But like I said before, there's so much that I think people can really enjoy from this movie. Is it there's a lot of gross factor? Yes, but I think that's part of the film's charm. I mean, why would that be offensive? But people have been offended by other things that are far less that have been far worse.
Synopsis too, which I've always been confused by. The movie says exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it is exactly what you're going to see.
Yeah.
And then they get pissed off about it. I'm like, but we told you exactly what it was. It's juvenile humor with bad language. It's got gore, it's got nudity, and it's got sex. If any of those things bother you, don't watch the fucking movie.
Yeah.
But
that's that simple.
Obviously, those people wouldn't like a movie like Clerks or The Hangover or anything like that either. So
I remember when I saw The Hangover 2, I forgot what year it came out, 2012, 2012 or something like that. I remember that scene in the movie where they were in Thailand and they were at the strip club, and it was a tranny strip club.
Right.
And I remember like, holy fuck, they're really doing this now,
Right.
And I remember thinking,
you can't even say that. Like, people will come after you for saying that. It has to be transgender.
Transgender, yeah. Well, I'm not here trying to offend anybody, but I mean, at the time,
I know you're not. I'm just saying. I worked. We did a movie for Showtime that was called "Ticked Off Trannies with Knives," and we got in a lot of trouble for that being in the title.
Really?
Oh yes, and it actually premiered at Tribeca with Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro supported the film and had the premiere at Tribeca Film Festival.
I never heard of them. So did you guys really have like transgender?
Yes, they did.
And they were okay with it too, with the title and everything?
They were fine with it. It was very interesting to see like that community was split into so many different types. Like even transgender, I think there's like 3 or 4 types of transgender people. It's like the ones that go full op. Then there's the ones who dress more like the impersonators, but they still have everything. Then there's the ones that may have the breast, but they keep the penis. And then there's the ones that go full op and they get the breast and the vagina. So I mean, it was just like they were all fighting amongst each other, and like everybody all this hatred going toward it. But it definitely brought light to those. I mean, there was transgender people in the movie, and it was kind of a grindhouse type movie, and it did very well at the time.
I never heard of that movie. You said it's a Showtime film?
Yeah, I was like a cameraman on that thing, and they threw me a role in there. But at that point, I had never really been around transgender people. At the point that movie was being made, I'd never been around any transgender people or that type of environment. So it was all new to me.
But how did you feel about the being brought into that environment? Was it like I'm sure it was an educational process here for you, but were you? I mean, I'm sure you were aware of it, but walking into that, how was everyone treating you and interacting with the actors that are on the set and working on the film? Was it something that you walked away with a pleasant experience working on that movie?
Yeah, it was a pleasant experience. I think some of the crew that had came on that movie had just came from Zombieland. So it was a new experience for pretty much all of us on there, but everybody had a great time filming it. I mean, you forget about it after a while. You don't sit there and keep dwelling on it, but at first it's a little something different if you've never been around anybody that was transgender.
Yeah. And I think
they looked more like women. Like that, it's a little harder for you sometimes. Even now, like if I'm working on something and there's some transgender people, but they may sound like a man still. So I might make the mistake of saying, "Hey man," or "Hey dude," and they get upset with me on that. And I try not to.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I think it's just like it's just like your habits of like how you react to a certain sound by a man's voice.
Right.
So I think it's it's just more education. Just be
sure, but most of the time nobody gets really that pissed off or upset.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty lax back then. There was a lot of joking on set and goofing off and all that now people could never get away with. So,
Oh, really?
but everybody just had a good time. I mean, it was fun. Everybody
Oh,
was
I see.
having a good time with it.
Well, so let's. I'm curious here because to ask you about your experiences with how you got yourself involved with films, and you pretty much, like I've kind of touched on before, you've worked on virtually every department. You've literally been doing a lot of different things, working on film sets, behind the camera, in front of the camera, and then of course making your own movie. You've literally done a bit of everything.
Right.
If you don't mind sharing for me, what was that point where you realized that I'm happy with what I'm doing right now, that this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm so glad that I'm getting to this right now? And it could have been something where you were just doing something very simple, something very high level, whatever the case may be. What was what was that turning point for you while you were on set?
I think the turning point is always the premiere. Like when you're in it, it's kind of hell. There's times where you just absolutely hate it. But when you see, like even your reaction makes you want to keep doing it. The fans is what makes you want to do it. And then getting the response, the payoff is when you go to the premiere and you get to see other people's reactions, especially with people who are not involved in the movie and don't know you. Just watching it with strangers is awesome for me. The final product is what it's all about to me, because the making it can sometimes be hell. And I'm okay with that, because I don't want everybody to be having too good of a time, because making a great fucking movie is almost impossible. And you got to really be focused on what you're doing. And I've been on these movie sets where everybody just wants to have a good time and play on their phones, and they're all just bullshitting. Everybody's just making that the great time, but then the movie turns out horrible. So I'm okay if I don't have the greatest time filming it, but I want the movie to be amazing in the end.
So when you actually finished filming Cherokee Creek, because you 6 months to shoot it, and you're shooting things out of sequence,
Right,
and then
I'm editing it as I'm going, so
okay.
I know that we have something. Like I edited the whole beginning stuff. I shot that first because the guy who's sitting in the front of the canoe, his name is Cherry Dale Parks, and he was going to quit acting, and he's kind of the reason the whole thing got kicked off, because he's like, dude, I know you want me to do this Bigfoot movie, and he was working on huge studio projects, all these big movies like Olympus Has Fallen and just huge movies. And he was like, I'm just going to retire, man. I think I want to have a family now. And this acting thing is just taking away too much from my wife and, and my family. So I need to just quit. So on this date, I'm quitting. That's it. Your movie's going to be my last day. That's it. I'm done after that. So he told me I had one day to shoot him. And that was it. And he gave me these dates. So it was down to the wire. So I was like, dude, we got to shoot this. So I shot that whole thing with the hunters. And I had no idea what the hell we were doing. I just bought that camera. I just bought that gimbal, and we were learning everything on the fly on that day. It was raining constantly. So as you see him, when his character dies, that was the last fucking shot of the day. And we just got it in. Because the whole time he's like telling me, he's like, dude, we got to get this right, because I'm out of here. I'm like, I know. And the effects team's like, we got to go. We're supposed to be at some rap party for some other movie. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about your rap party. Let's just get this effect shot done. So,
wow. Well,
so once I saw that stuff all assembled together, and I knew
right.
how hard it was, it ended up being one of my favorite parts of the movie.
So when you you shot that and put it together, was that the moment you realized, holy shit, I got something?
Right. That's when I knew. I was like, we got something.
Okay. And then, so what happens along the way, as going through some of the turmoil, shit that's going down that you're having to overcome, as you're putting the film together? Are you still having that same level of confidence watching?
Oh, hell no. I like the movie, but you just weren't confident enough that all the actors, I mean, like, even if an actor just quit on you and they only owed you like one scene, you were like, they could literally quit on us and then we're fucked. So you're always worried about that. You're like, what happens if something happens to the actor? God forbid they get hurt or something, or they just decide they're not going to finish the movie. Because we were having problems with certain people just not wanting to finish. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, what's going to happen?
What was apart from the content of the film, what was the other common thing that people were not wanting to do the movie or quitting in the first place? What was the most common issue for them?
Just the schedule. They just didn't like coming out working that schedule, night shifts, the cold. It was always freezing. I'm telling you, that was probably one of the coldest winters we had in a long time, when we were hitting those single digits. It's like nobody wanted to come out in that. It was hell. They pretty much hated every moment of being on set.
But I'm sure
you don't see that in our performances, though.
No. Well, it's
The
a testament to
performances
you
looks
guys.
like everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, that's a testament, I think.
But we
I'm
were
sure.
not. We were awful. It was awful. And we had these portable gas heaters we bring out with us. I mean, it was terrible. It really was.
I always liken it to when people say, when I hear these stories about people quitting, working on, let's say in this case, an independent movie, but they're willing to make a compromise under those circumstances if they're getting paid a hefty penny to do the exact same thing on a larger budget, probably more
Right.
pristine movie.
Oh, these guys weren't getting paid a lot. The thing was some of the people said, hey, I'm going to work for SAG low budget, whatever. And it wasn't a SAG film, but they wanted to work for SAG low budget, which is like $150, $200 a day, whatever. And then some of them were like, no, don't worry about it. Just put me as an investor and I'll take mine on the back end, which all those people would have made a shit ton of money. They would have made a lot of money if we would have kept the movie out. It would have kept climbing the ladder like it was. I was like, dude, some of these actors are going to walk away with like 10, 20 grand on this movie if we keep doing this. So they made the right choice in the gamble. But when everything was stolen, they got zero. So I think that also affects people too when you're working. And you got to remember, there's no crew. So they're just seeing me out there with this camera and me climbing trees and putting up some Home Depot LED lights.
How many? So apart from the actors on set, like literally, how many people were actually, as far as the crew is concerned, that were actually working aside from you doing everything else? Was there like any other person that kind of helped?
The actors. The actors that were that night would help bring stuff out to the set, as far as like the stands and the lights and stuff like that. If there was an actor who wasn't on camera, if he wanted to, he might check the sound, put the headphones on just to make sure I had the levels mixed right. But then I had that intern guy that came in who just filmed me. And he ended up being a relative of mine. He had just married my cousin and he heard me talking about making the movie on this property.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I want to be a filmmaker. And I was like, really? Well, if you want to come out and be an intern, I'll teach you everything I know, but it's going to suck. And you're going to get treated like shit. So it's up to you if you want to come out and do this. So he came out and was a real trooper, and he would film all my stuff, which wasn't easy to do. He had to learn how to use the gimbal and to film me. But without him, we would have never got my stuff. We would have never had my coverage.
So, so when you watch
it though, I mean, and he wasn't always there. Like a lot of times near the end, he wasn't there so much because I think he had a vacation plan or something. And as it got colder, I'm telling you, it just got to where people were, if they weren't on camera, they sure as hell were going to come out there and help.
I don't know. I guess I'm in the minority where, if you're, no. Anyways, I get it. But
I get it too, because I mean, I would say, and I don't know if it's 90%, but the majority of the movies that you work on, especially independent films, they never get finished. And if they do get finished, they're really embarrassing a lot of times. So I don't think that they knew the level that the film was going to be when it came out, because when we did our little cast and crew screening where I'd invite people over, like 10 or 12 people to watch it, they were not expecting it to be what it was.
They were genuinely surprised.
Oh yeah, they were blown away with it. They had no idea that it was going to look or sound like that.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they're just seeing me out there running around with these LED Home Depot lights, put them in the trees, and I got this little bitty tiny camera that's a Sony A7S Mark II. It doesn't look like a fancy movie camera whatsoever. And a microphone. I mean, it just looks simple. It looks like you could carry it all, and just like one person could carry all the lights and all the stuff if they wanted to. And that's it. That's all we had.
So tell me about the first time when you're shooting the movie, you're editing it on the way, and then now you come to the final product before anyone else saw it. I'm sure some people saw it along the way, but I'm talking about like the final product before you give that, I guess you could say, the premiere for everyone to see. Like when you saw that, how did you feel seeing everything said and done?
Oh, super accomplished, man. I couldn't believe I did it. I mean, I even look at it now and I'm like, how the hell did I make this movie? Yeah. How? You just don't know. You forget about the hell that you went through, but you're like, and that's the same with all the projects I've worked on since then, because a lot of stuff is they don't have a budget to get $1 million grip truck or to hire 5 grips or a gaffer or anything. So it's always me running around, and I'll go back and watch and go, how in the hell did I make this? It doesn't seem possible.
So, but even now, as you're talking about the movie here, I mean, do you have a lot of good emotions coming out of it when you're discussing it, whether it be about, the hurdles you went through post the film, or do you have like a really good feeling about what it took to make the movie? Like, what sort of sentiments are you experiencing whenever, in this conversation, for example, we're having right now?
Right.
I mean,
I feel really good about it. I feel great about what I did with it. I'm extremely happy with it.
But this is actually you're like really proud. I mean, I obviously mentioned before, but you're really proud of the movie.
That's why I asked you if you wanted to review it. I wouldn't push the movie, and I still wouldn't be telling people about it 3 years later if I was embarrassed by it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think every filmmaker should feel that way. A lot of people just think once the movie's done, it's done. It's like, no, it's a lifetime commitment you're making with this project. It's a company. You're going to have to do accounting on this for the rest of your life. And if you're not proud of it, then you probably shouldn't make it.
Yeah.
Because you got to tell people about it. You got to, like you, for instance. I've told thousands of people about it, but I'm still going to tell anybody about it that wants to look at it or wants to review it. I still want to give them an opportunity to check it out and see what their thoughts are.
So tell me about your experiences when you reached out to somebody and, you assume that, consider that they're fans of the genre and they're saying no. Like, what's your initial reaction? At least the first time.
It only happened with that one company that we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
They were the only ones that didn't like the movie. Like, and nobody had ragged on the movie that bad that I sent it to. Like, it, like some people would absolutely go, man, I wish I could give this movie a 0 out of 10. It fucking sucks. I mean, you're going to get those people like that, but nobody who was a professional reviewer at that time had said anything negative to me. Because I'd already gotten Rue Morgue to review the movie, and then we'd had
Joe Bob Greer.
Yeah, his people had reviewed the movie, so I felt really good about it. So I was kind of shocked when I got that review from those people. I was like, that's weird. Like,
yeah.
How are we getting all this praise from these other people and all these other companies and all these other websites? And I think even, God, I can't remember the name of it. Is it Pop Horror or something like that? They'd said it was one of the best Bigfoot movies they'd ever seen, one of the best movies of the year, something. I mean, I was really surprised how many people liked it. Like, there was hardly ever any critics that said, oh, this movie just totally fucking sucks.
So when you heard that, like, well, apart from being shocked, did it like, were you bothered by it? Were you hurt by that? What was your initial thought process when you first heard that reaction from them?
I just thought it was weird. I mean, I just posted it I posted it for the fans to so they could see it, and they could respond to it. And they didn't like that. They didn't think that was right. They got upset that I did that. Which doesn't make sense to me. Okay, it's like, if I make a movie and you're going to review it, okay, well, if you're going to talk shit about it though, and my fans don't agree with you, why can't they go on your YouTube channel and defend it? I don't understand that. But they felt like I was like unfairly sicking my people on them. I'm like, I don't know these people. They're just fans of the movie. If they want to go on your YouTube channel, I have no control over what they're going to say. I just said, hey, check it out if you agree with, and let them know if you agree or disagree with what they had to say.
So they think there's probably like an ulterior motive behind that, is what they were probably assuming. Yeah. So like, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I'm always in the position where I guess, I've seen enough rejection in other areas of my life where I realize that if you ask somebody to do something, don't expect a yes. Always expect the possibility of a no. And if they do look into it, don't expect them to praise you for what you've done. I've asked enough people to review stuff. Hey, I've done this. Let me know what you think, because I kind of want to get a feel of what the general public will get a feel, how would they react to that. And if I get someone that says it's not my thing, okay, I get it. Why? That's all I want to know. Tell me why, so I have a better understanding where you're coming from. But if it's going to be some general, I just think it sucks. Okay, well, tell me why it sucks, so I can understand where you're coming from. It's just not my type of movie. You're not really helping the situation. You're actually you're actually being difficult. Well, you asked for my opinion, so I'm just being honest. Man, fuck your honesty then, because if that's your honest reaction, then you can go suck a dick. It's the way I see it. So I mean, like that's the one thing that I don't appreciate when it comes to reviews. And I'm not saying every review does this. Some people take their time, they consider the hard work and say, I saw the movie, I understand what they went through, I appreciate what they put into it, but it's not my cup of tea. But it may be for you, so check it out. That's a fair assessment, in my opinion.
Sure.
But like I said before, when it comes to indie movies, there's a preconceived notion that I just don't want to cater to if I say I did not like the movie because this, A, B, C didn't work for me. and then someone would just look at that on face value and say, he said the movie sucks, so don't watch it. It's not what I'm trying to do. Because I know that it's a very difficult thing to do. And if people, because I mean, you shared it before, you said, hey, let me know what you guys think of their review, and share your thoughts, and then they're reacting negatively. That's the reason why I don't do that, because of that's, sorry to say, I may people may not like when I say this here, but some people are just stupid. Sorry, but people are really stupid. And it's unfortunate, because I think when you put them aside and get them alone and you really talk to them one-on-one, you might get a different person out of that conversation. You might get a different reaction out of that conversation. But once you put them in that group, it's a whole different ball game, because now it's all about, it's that reaction that I think they're accustomed to give under those circumstances for whatever the reason may be. So
I think for me, it was kind of fun though, because it's fun to listen to the reactions. Like, I think there was a review that one of the filmmakers had his girlfriend go on the Amazon, and she had wrote, and I screenshotted it and shared it. She was just like, this movie sucks because of these reasons. And she would list each thing, like, guy gets dick chopped off, guy runs through woods with dick, how stupid, and stuff like that. So I thought it was funny to post that. And then the audience, and then the fans would be like, that sounds fucking hilarious to me. This is right. The best review ever.
Well, yeah. And there are some reviews, when you get that, that's great promotion, right? That you've
to me it's promotion, but they always take it personal that you posted it. Like, I think the guy's girlfriend got really pissed off, and then he got all of his cast members to come on and start fighting with the fans. And I'm like, dude, it's funny. Like, no one said, hey, contact this guy's girlfriend at this address, this phone number, and give her shit. I just thought the review was funny. It was funny to me.
Well, at least you didn't do what was it Siskel Ebert did, where I think when Friday the 13th, the first one had come out, and I forgot the actress name. I should know because I've seen the movie a few times. The actress that played Pamela Voorhees, he was like, this movie's god awful. This actress that plays the part of Jason's mother lives at this address. Go to her house right now.
Oh, wow.
That is fucked up. That's Siskel, Siskel, who I think was the one that did that. And you can literally find it. It's available online. You can literally see how he posted that review. She lives at this address. Go and see her right now and tell her that this movie was terrible. Something to that effect. I'm like, stupid. That is so fucking stupid. That was from the 80s, mind you. And imagine if we do this now with the social media
it'd be
accessibility
awful.
Here. It would be a riot. So yeah. So like I said, though, there are some people who, even some of the smartest, most eloquent, and most respected people, do the dumbest things. I'm sure if Siskel Siskel was alive now, he probably would have a different perception about. I would never do that again, because I don't want somebody to come to my house and say, "How dare you say that shit?" So, I've already said it earlier in the conversation, to say about how I think this is a movie that deserves that attention, that deserves that awareness, and that really deserves, the fun, the monetary returns that I believe that you guys have invested and need to get back, and then some. I really do believe that. And if the movie were to make over $100 million, that's something that I would say you guys deserve it. That's something you guys have earned, and you guys need to keep every. No, I understand. I get that. But, if one of those things, I think if a movie does that well, that's something that's considered a success, because now the genre that we love, people are aware of it, have gone to see it. That's a good thing. So
I still think it has a place to live, and it would be a great midnight movie to show it, different theaters and independent theaters and stuff eventually. I just think it's going to have to get re-released at some point, and it's going to have to grow its legs again, and hopefully take off, and I got 15 movies in post-production right now. So hopefully out of some of those movies, I'll get more well-known as well, that will help generate people to go and watch Cherokee Creek, is what I'm hoping.
I hope so too. And I really think it's one of those situations that it may sound kind of redundant to some people, but it's probably one of those situations that it just has to be at the right place at the right time, in the right environment, where someone is going to watch the movie, or a group of people are going to watch the film and say, you've got to watch this fucking movie, and then it'll blow up from there. When did this movie come out? 2019 is, I think, which film had come out, right? 2019?
I think it was 2018.
2018, okay, yeah.
I don't even remember, man.
Yeah, so somewhere around then. So I think that's something that I hope would happen here for you. But yeah, man, I don't really have anything else that I want to that I can ask right now as far as the films are concerned, because I feel like a lot of things you have covered before. You've already discussed on it. I don't necessarily want to repeat that for you again, even though I kind of did during the conversation. But when you saw Daylight Sin, though, at the end, after working on it, were you pleasantly surprised like how solid that movie turned out to be? Like, were you
Oh
like,
yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I'd seen some of his other stuff leading up to that,
right.
so I already felt really. I felt like he was going to nail it for sure. But I was blown away with it. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, dude, I got to work with this guy somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to work with him since I saw his other movies. So it was just it's a very long story. Our whole backstory is really weird, how we
Mhm.
met and then how we got to this point. We even lived in the same apartment complex at one point,
Oh, really?
and we got married on the same damn day
Oh,
on a
really?
beach. He
So
got married
yet,
on the beach, and I got married on the beach on August 8th.
oh, really?
Yeah, different years though, but
Oh,
the
I
same.
see. Okay. I was gonna say on the
I
same
married a
date.
teacher. He married a teacher.
Really?
It's fucking weird, man. Like when we go through all these weird coincidental things between us, it's pretty strange.
Yeah. Will, the very little that I have interact with him, he's always been pretty calm and pretty, because here's the thing. I've
He's
never
a super
seen,
calm filmmaker. He's like way more calm than me. Like I'm not that calm.
so I was very hard pressed to find like some behind the scenes footage of him working on the set,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult to find anything on him
Did you
while
see?
on set.
I actually shot a bunch of daylights in behind the scenes stuff. Did you see any of that?
I was trying to look for that. The only thing I came across is like that shootout scene that occurred in the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie. That's the one that you shot, right?
Yeah, I shot a ton. Anytime
Yeah.
I was on set, I shot behind the scenes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I couldn't find anything with him like being interviewed or
No,
being asked.
he doesn't really do a lot of interviews. I don't think.
I know that's the thing, and the very few that I have come across is mostly just in promoting the movie at a festival
Mhm.
or some
Right.
news studio somewhere, mainly in Dallas, I should say. But yeah, outside of that, like there was really very limited info about him as far as what his experiences in the film, other than what he's been able to share, what he's been asked. So like I felt like, holy shit, I think I'm gonna be the very first guy that could actually sit down
That
like
would be
this and
awesome.
interview.
That'd be awesome for you to do that.
Uh,
He's very cool and calm to work with.
yeah,
For me, on my movie was always my money. So like you might, like this day might be costing me 5 G's on the credit card. So, I was gonna be freaking out because I never had that kind of money to throw around. So
yeah,
my whole thing was, hey guys, we got to be fucking serious today because we got to get this shit done. And Murphy's Law would always come in like at the end of the movie, the drone, for some reason, it was being captured to the card, and the card compressed the fucking data, so it looked like dog shit. So, but when you were watching it on the monitor, it looked great. So when you're spending all this money to have an ambulance out there and the fire department and who else did I have out there? I had some cops out there and stuff. You have all these people coming out there. It's a big production day. It's going to cost you a shit ton of money to get that shot. And when it goes to shit, man, you just flip the fuck out. You're like, oh my God, that cost thousands of dollars and it looks like shit. What the fuck happened? You freak out.
yeah.
You know,
I wanted to ask you. I just dawned on me. There was a question I did want to ask. So when I saw the movie both times, I didn't realize your mother was the old lady in the.
right?
So when I saw the movie, I thought it was hilarious. Watching the post credit, if you will. Mom, say the line again. All right, guys, let's get going.
Yeah.
There was a certain like sweetness about that particular moment that I really did not expect to get from this movie. Your mother. Your mother saying those things, I thought was fucking hilarious because I didn't realize you had to tell her, say it like this again. You share that little moment in the post credit. What was it like for her? Because I'm not sure if she's ever done this before. Was that like
It was
was
a
that a
weird
first
thing.
experience?
We were driving around in the car, and she knew I was going to be directing this movie, and she just kind of would like drop these weird reveals. She always does this to me. Like she'll tell me some story out of the blue that I haven't heard in my whole life, and I'll be like, "What?" And she was like, I really always wanted to be an actress. So you got to put me in there somewhere. I was like, "What the fuck? Like, you wanted to be an actress? I never knew that." She's like, "I'm like,
But she
well,
killed
there's
it
not really
though.
there's no room in the movie for you, but let me see if I can come up with something." And I came up with that part, and I said, "It's pretty bad, but I mean, she does talk like that sometimes." So I was
Oh,
like,
really?
"Yeah, I mean, that phrase actually came out of her mouth before, and I thought it would be funny." I said, you said that before when people have told you to kiss their ass or whatever. You said that, so I thought it would be funny to work it into the movie."
That's hilarious. I love that.
And I even think I was going to put her in the strip bar, like as a little Easter egg at the end, like her trying to give money to the strippers and shit.
Oh yeah.
But she got really sick during the movie. We both did. Like, I had the flu through almost the entire filming of the movie. Like, I thought I was going to die. There was times I was puking on set, and I lost my voice, so I couldn't really talk. And then she was in the hospital, like in ICU. She got pneumonia, and they were going to have to remove some of her lung. So I didn't even know if she was going to make it. And I'm out here on a fucking set because I'd spent so much money on these days.
I think I remember you sharing that story. I think I remember you mentioned that now.
Yeah, I'd be on set, man, and you're like, dude, you know, the actors are bitching about being there, and you're like, dude, my mom's in the fucking ICU. Can we just get this fucking done?
Yeah.
You know? So it was tough. It was tough. And
Yeah.
now she's battling dementia, so she won't remember any of that now.
It's sad.
It's
You know, like I said, when I saw that scene, it's hilarious. You know, just from what her introduction to that in that scene, but like I said before, like this is the reason why I truly love the film too. One of the reasons why I should say I truly love the film, because there is a nice little moment where you saw the involvement of your family, in this case being a part of the film, and you're seeing your mom, being you directing your mother and having people's reaction off the camera to her line. It's like, this is why, like, I hope that people, when they watch the movie, yes, they enjoy the film, but there's that nice little Easter egg of a really nice sentimental moment that I'm sure everyone can relate to.
And most people probably haven't even seen that. They probably
that's what I'm saying.
Watch past the credits to see that. So.
Right, and well, I always do, because I was actually looking forward if there's a post credit, because I got so accustomed the last 10 years because of Marvel. I was like, let me see if there's a post credit to anything.
Yeah,
even for the most mundane movie, like, let me see if there's one little thing. So you never know. But anyway, so I purposely stayed around just to see if something would come up. And when I saw this, I was like, oh shit, that's his mom. How awesome is that?
My wife's in there. She's actually leaving LeBaire as the people are walking out. And then my cat that passed away is in there when Caroline's getting ready on the counter.
Oh, okay.
I was always finding ways. And then her sister, let's see, my sister-in-law, her voice is in there somewhere. I'm trying to think of where it was. My wife's voice is the 911 operator.
Oh, okay.
She's like, I got this dick in the cooler. And she's like, ma'am, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down, ma'am. That's my wife.
That's hilarious.
Where did we put the sister-in-law, man? I know there's another place in there with this voice stuff.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, apart from the 911 operator. Maybe it was probably in the strip club off camera somewhere. Is that what you're referring to?
That's not it. That's not it. I can't believe I can't remember it, man. It's crazy. I don't remember my own fucking movie. It's been for years.
I'm sure it happens to the best.
It's been a minute. Yeah, but people, it's crazy. Like, when I work with people, they know these movies so well, and they know my movies so well, that because my job is to constantly focusing on new projects and learning new scripts and doing this, it's like I just delete the shit. Like, you just forget it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of some of the most common thing when I come across with some people who have worked on a million different projects, and it's just like a big blur to them because it's just one thing after the other.
Oh, I remember it. She's the one on the park ranger. She comes across on the park ranger radio going, hey, did you find anything out of Cherokee Creek? And then
yeah, that's right. Okay.
She's like, oh yeah, everything's cool at Cherokee Creek. There's no problem at all.
Yeah.
That's where she did the voice.
I love the way how the film ended too, when the sheriff was like, let me see the chest. And I was like, oh man, this is one of those things where it's like, because I'm not saying, when my reaction is not negative at all. It's just like, it was one of those things where I thought it was so funny, because it's like, that's not the first time it's happened. That's how
right.
the
like person they're all in on it. Like, the whole town knows that there's just people always coming out there. They're always looking for Bigfoot, and they post the signs, and no one ever listens to the signs.
Yeah.
The signs are everywhere, but they ignore the signs, and she's used to coming out to those parties, and she's used to hanging out with people.
Yeah.
She likes it. And he knew.
Yeah.
He knew that she was a fan of Vinnie Blades.
Yeah. That was funny, because he's so that was your friend Billy
Blair.
Blair, thank you.
Yeah.
He had such a familiar face too, because I remember I was watching him. I was like, I know I've seen this guy from somewhere, because he just has a look about him.
It was the Machete movies.
Right. So, and I was like, I know I've seen him from somewhere. It's been a while since I've seen those movies. And I was looking back, I was like, oh shit. And he has his name in the movie too. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that that he was in the movie. But this was actually the first time that I can recall, because I can't remember if I've ever seen him in any other films outside of the Machete films. But he was playing, I'm assuming, like an exaggerated version of himself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Okay. So because
so was I, because it was funny during the interview process. Like, I would interview some of the actors versus audition them, and they would name movies that they had seen Billy in, but I was in the same movie. I would be in the same movie with them.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't remember that I was in the movie.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting there talking to them about it. I was like, well, I was like the lead villain, and Billy was my henchman in the movie. And they're like, no, you weren't in that movie. I'm like, I was in the fucking movie. Like, I was the main guy.
So I thought that was actually a clever thing to include. I mean, I'm sure people who may not know that off, not knowing anything about you guys, watch the movie, they still can connect with the humor. But,
right.
But again, watching it a second time around, it was actually a much more added element that I actually appreciated, because I did do a little more research on that. I figured out that you guys had worked together before. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, man, listen, because I actually got to be heading out because there's somebody that's waiting on me here. So no, it's not, because I've been getting
we're
calls.
gonna talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah, I would love to, believe me, I really would, because I would have kept going here. But so my intention for you is really just to promote the fuck out of this movie, but also in turn promote you as well too. No, I really do mean that, because
responding to me. So
no, because I know because I've heard on several interviews that you've talked to, I reached out to several people who was, I love this shit, and then they never follow up with you. I was like, I am not going to do that to you. So I really do hope that this will bring some more awareness, more attention, and at the same time, I also hope that with what you've got coming down the pipeline, that also brings more work for you coming down the line, for you to be able to do other things that I know you're really going to be, that I'm hoping that after seeing this movie, honestly, there's a part of me that watches the movie and I see strong character development. And I remember thinking when I saw the film the second time, you could do a really good dramatic piece if you really wanted to put into it. Like, if you really wanted to put a strong a strong character piece and remove all the comedy, I think you've got the chops to do that as well too. And I'm sure you want to do other things as well. I have no doubt on that. But there was a part of me that wondered, if you are going to do that, what type of dramatic piece you're going to go down, or you're going to go with here, because from seeing what you've written, seeing the film and knowing what you've written, allowing the improvisation, it sounds like you're like a team player, but at the same time, you're also really good at trusting people to do what they need to do, and then trusting yourself in that situation. So I think you know how to.
There's actually probably about 40 minutes of the movie that's been cut. If and when you see the Blu-ray, or I'll actually probably just send it to you. There's a lot of deleted scenes. Congratulations. I hope those interviews go well for you that you're trying to work on. And thanks so much for having me on. And taking a chance on watching an independent film that you didn't know anything about.
No, thank you for reaching out to me, because quite frankly, man, this is why I do what I do. So I hope that this will be a bigger. I hope you go to do something. I'm already exhausted, man, so I'm like rambling on.
Well, I saw your interview on Daylight's In, and I was like, dude, I don't know this guy, but he did a great review of Daylight's In, so I'll take a chance and see if he wants to look at it.
Well, and again, I like to do my research, so I take my time with it. So this interview, by the time it gets uploaded, it'll probably be about 3 weeks from now, to be completely frank. So I'll have the review out probably about a week before that, or the same week, and then announce the interview, and then I'll be up and ready by towards the second half of this month here. So it should be coming around really quickly. So I've got a lot to work on to prepare for what I want to do to help promote this movie, and also help promote you as well. So I really hope that it all works out for you. And I appreciate you checking out the review, and I thank you for the kind words. I really do mean that. But truthfully, man, I'm so thankful that you came out and reached out to me to talk with me, and take the time out of your day to actually go a lot longer than we anticipated. So if anything, I give you props, man.
No problem, man. Like I said, I could talk about it for hours, and then you bringing up so many things is making me remember some of the good moments that you were talking about. So
yeah, I appreciate again for you sharing the stories with me. And I will also make sure that in the description that I have all your social media accounts as well, as far as where people can reach out to you and they can follow you, and as well as putting up links where they can actually get a chance to purchase the movie as well too. So after the fact, I will definitely try to coordinate that with you to have everything in place for that. So have all the proper links ready in time for the review, for the interview when it gets uploaded, so everyone can see that once they check out the interview. So I hope that will hopefully prompt them to go out of the way to check it out and buy the movie. And with regards to me getting the movie from you, I want to put money into it. So whatever we got to do to get that sorted out in the proper manner, we'll do that.
I'll keep you posted, brother.
I appreciate that. But listen, man, you have a wonderful day. Be safe out there, and